The strikes which are crippling our country, I think we should be very sympathetic to people who feel that they need more money. I certainly know from my own experience, teachers are paid appallingly. I know from speaking to friends that people in railways are paid appallingly and the systems simply don't work. I also know from having been treated in hospitals that nurses and doctors are, again, treated appallingly in the NHS. Nurses often having to walk miles from a place where they can securely park because they aren't given free parking in the hospital site. And yet bureaucrats get it, bureaucrats who do, frankly, nothing and who don't communicate. As I know to my own misfortune, one hospital trust doesn't speak to another, one hospital within a hospital's trust doesn't speak to another, and hours is wasted in trying to answer a simple question and admitting their failure, but offering no form of compensation. And you end up thinking, well, I don't want to sue the hospital. Why would I want to do that? I don't have the energy or the capacity to do it, quite apart from the will. I simply want people to do their job. And I would like to see less bureaucrats functioning or not functioning in hospitals because they don't function. I would like to see the real money being given to the people who do the real work. That's nurses and doctors. And I would like to see people treated with proper respect. And then we come to Dr. Robert Laurenson. And he was on Radio 4 this morning, and he was talking about the strikes, and he ended up getting into a muddle, almost accidentally confessed that there was a left-wing militant agenda, rather like my friends in the railway unions have confessed something similar, that they want to bring down the government. That's their aim. Their aim really isn't to get more money. Their aim is to bring down the government. Well, line up, get in line. But bringing down the government and destroying the country at the same time, that's a different matter and rather stupid. At the moment, we need to be... I need to pick up the cat. We need to be working together because all these people working for themselves, in the end, it just comes across as selfish. But let's have a look at Dr. Robert Laurenson. This is the person who, on the day of the first doctor's strike, went on holiday and was photographed on a yacht. Hardly protesting, hardly joining the workers there, is he? And then we learn he's got a £500,000 flat with no mortgage. He's a director of the family's investment firm. Quite extraordinary. Why would he be... Well, anyway, let's have a look at him. He said this morning that there was a difference between negotiating with Scotland and negotiating with England. Why would the doctors accept a deal from Scotland? Well, because it's different. The governments are very different. The Scottish government is a government with whom we can have a working relationship. The UK, he said, is hell-bent on using the rigged independent pay review bodies, but they're supposed to be independent. And he was then asked whether or not this was an ideological approach, and he didn't deny it, and that's really the point. So he then went on about 15 years, and in other words, confirming that this is a militant battle against the government rather than a battle for better conditions and better pay for his members. This is militancy. And surely that isn't right. I mean, I would love to see the end of this present government. I don't know what the alternative is. I haven't really thought that far. Well, I have, and I'm not terribly impressed by the thought of the alternatives at the moment. But I know that the people currently wielding power are not good for our country. But similarly, bringing the country to a standstill through unnecessary strikes that are dishonest. So if you want a strike to bring the country to a standstill, say so, Dr. Robert, and let your members vote on that. If you want to strike for better conditions, then do that. But don't play these games of saying one thing and doing another, because that is deceitful. And the same thing with the railway union. You know, if the railway bosses are being paid so much compensation that they don't need to pay attention to the money that they are, quote, losing every time the railway people go on strike, there's no point in going on strike. You're not getting your message across. The only thing you're doing is bringing the country misery. And you know, if you try to go into London on days when there's a rail strike, and let's imagine, like me, that you've already booked things that you need to do in London when there's a rail strike. I've already had to pay a huge amount of money in taxi fares coming all the way from Exeter back to Rugby simply because there was a rail strike. We can't, you know, we're advised to plan ahead, but then the rail strikes are called. We can't plan round those things because we can't cancel a lot of the things we've planned ahead. So it just costs much more money, and it ratchets up the resentment and the frustration and ideas that, frankly, if we have an alternative, we will not use the railways in future. So what's the point of building HS2? Because if I have a better solution, I certainly will not be using HS2. Anyway, who knows if I'll be alive by that stage.